And Robert, it is your show. Show
Awesome.
me what you got.
Okay. Well, welcome to the table in the tavern. I'm going to be your host tonight. My name is Robert. With me tonight, I've got Patrick and David, and hopefully everybody remembers who we are, but just in case, I'm fairly new to the DMing scene, only been doing it for about 6 years. And tonight's topic of choice is going to be online versus in-person sessions. Why don't we go ahead and give David and then Patrick a moment to reintroduce themselves, and then we can get started.
Hey, folks. My name is David. Just as a refresher, I've been doing tabletop gaming and DMing for better part of 25, almost 30 years now. Various games, various environments. Yeah, that's about it for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Patrick, go ahead.
My name is Patrick, otherwise known as Leon Jenkins or Pat Man. Avid DM. Love playing D&D as well. Love talking about comics and D&D. That's kind of my passion.
Okay, great. So, as mentioned before, our topic for this evening is going to be D&D from the perspective of in-person sessions versus online. So I guess the first question needs to be, which do we prefer as DMs? Is it easier or better to run a session in person or online? And then we'll get into it from there. So, David, why don't you go ahead and give me your response to that real quick, and then we'll...
All right. Having done both, they both have their pros and cons. In my opinion, it really comes down to what kind of play. It really boils down to what kind of players you have and what environment you're looking for. Lately, over the past couple of years, my main method of RP has been virtual, because I really don't have any centralized group, and due to some of my personal issues, it's hard to have a tabletop group. So virtual has been my recent method, but with like I said, it really depends on what you're looking for and what kind of players, because it does take a lot of discipline to do online, because there can be a lot more distractions. But with in person, there's a lot of distractions, but you get more face to face, and you have a better chance of interaction with other players. So it's kind of a toss up. But I do like online because you don't have to set up, a single environment for everybody to show up and basically entertain in your house.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Patrick, the same question. What are the, benefits of playing in person versus trying to do so online?
Okay. Thank you. The benefits of playing in person versus online. The benefits are there's only so much I can perceive from you as a player or as a DM. from a virtual platform. I can only perceive what you allow me to hear and see. I may not be able to notice your nervous twitch with that pencil going, or whatever it is, those little ticks that tell me what you're thinking, or whatever. That personal relationship that you build with your friends in person versus being on a virtual tabletop. It's been one that I've ushered into in this last decade, as a lot of things in my life changed. I stopped playing D&D as much as I did, moved away from the people that I played with, found it difficult to find games to play in, ended up turning to playing on different platforms like MRPG, which was text-based adventuring. That was how much I loved playing TTRPGs, that I was willing to just sit there with my phone or my computer and just type out endless dialogue just to cut and paste and throw on there to keep the game going. And it made me a better DM as far as having preparations. I've relaxed too much. I've taken too much leniency, but that's another topic. But so it forces you to step up your game doing a virtual, I'd say, because you're relying on more of your battle maps than theater of mind. Sitting around a table and you're talking about things, and you got a couple figures on a map, and they're all painted, and you painted them 7 years ago. Touched them up last week, keep them brushed off, and I bring them and I put them on the table. Well, in my game, to do that, well, I gotta find your token, not in a drawer, in a file, probably in a zip drive somewhere, put it in my computer, download it, bring it over there, drop it in, okay? And then bring it onto that particular map, bring that map in. Oh, I have to make the map, by the way. Put that on there too. And there's a lot more prep work that goes into it. And that's a big thing as far as the thing, because I paint my little stuff or use books or whatever, and I've gone beyond that now, using different things like Ingarn, and I love doing all that stuff. I do it for hours and hours. It helps me kind of get into the mindset of what all's there as I'm building all this stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah. But as far as the benefits and drawbacks, the big benefit, I'd say, is the kinship that you make with your friends. The drawbacks from it really comes down to scheduling and the technical aspect of it. And I find that bringing all those boards and bringing all those figures and bringing all that stuff over to someone's house, or having you bring all your stuff, and me providing the snacks, me providing the entertainment, maybe we're watching a movie or whatever and we're doing some stuff, and now my home is invaded by my party for 5 or 6 hours for a 3 or 4 hour game. Not only my space, but the space of all of my life companions. My wife, my sister that I'm living with, my roommate, whoever it is that's there with me. Now they have to endure my party as well. I can't just go, close my door, I'm here. Okay? Just like I am right now. While you're in Ohio, David's in Washington or Oregon, and I'm in
Oregon,
Missouri. We're all in different parts of the world. And that's where the convenience is, when I can just, I don't have to drive over to your house. I just have to, oh yeah, I got a game tonight. Let me go Hey guys, what's up? So there you go.
Okay.
Hope that answers
Awesome.
your question.
Thanks very much.
The conflicts of scheduling conflicts for real life gaming. Gotta hate it.
Okay, well, I guess I will go ahead and answer my own questions. For me, I absolutely loved having all of the miniatures and expanding my collection and having all those resource books and all the dice sets. And you get to actually go over and you show all of your friends you're hanging out with, look at the new figures I just got, or, what I've been working on with this stuff, or check out my new dice box, or just whatever it is. It was you keep building a collection, but that's actually part of the drawback of playing in person. For me, also, is the expense of doing so. It is so much easier to go online and use Pinterest or some other image share site and download a token for whatever mob that you're going to throw at the party. Than it is to go and try to find and either put it on your own little disc. I know when I first got started, I was using pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and just writing 1 through 8 or whatever, on them to keep track of which one was which. And that worked okay, but as you get going, you really want to have that visualization there. And so that theater of the mind that you were talking about, really is a big deal. So, I miss when I'm playing in a group directly. I miss being able to actually roll the dice, the physical roll, and that hopes that you're going to pull it off. But I will tell you that playing online, it keeps you a lot more honest. Everyone can see your roll. Yeah, so that's basically where I'm at with it. I absolutely love the. Sorry, what's that?
Can they?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I absolutely love having all the physical pieces, but unfortunately, there comes the expense with that. There comes all the storage space that you need for that. I have hundreds of miniatures and dozens of resource books, and and when you're not the one hosting as the DM and you're going to someone else's home, there is a lot to carry in. So that was something that you had pointed out as well. I've got a backpack full of stuff, and then I've got a carry tote for the miniatures, and then I've got just another little tote that I keep the rest of the stuff in, so that I've got my my whatever the game mat is, and so on. But and then they're building the maps. It's so much faster doing that online as far as drawing something out, because they don't have to wait for everything to load. You can have pre-drawn everything and just say, okay, well, let's go to this next screen real quick. And it lets the flow go a lot faster. It helps with the immersion, I think, in a lot of ways. So yeah, that would be my response, I think, to that question. Do we want to continue any conversation on that topic, or do we want to move on to the next round of questions?
Well, touching on your comment about packing all this stuff, I absolutely agree. I mean, when you're prepping for a game session to go to a friend's house, and it looks like you're packing for a weekend getaway to the tropics because you're carrying like a suitcase and a backpack, then that's a bit much. Because like you said, you have your books, your dice, your minis, your maps, your dice, your dice tower, your book, your DM notes, and all of that other stuff, and your binders and spell cards and who knows what else, all of this stuff, just for 4 or 5 hour trip to hang out with your friends, give me a tablet with all of that stuff on PDF, maybe a bag of dice, and a virtual character sheet. And I'm happy.
Right.
And
I've actually found that we've done a lot of hybrid sessions where we're using Roll20, we're using a projector system or something similar, and the DM is actually manipulating all of our pieces up on the board, while everybody else is actually still being able to physically roll the dice. You can choose to have, a tablet or a phone out that has your character sheets, or you can write it all out on paper. And so I think blending the two is really going to be the way to go. In the end of things.
yeah.
You bring up an interesting perspective there, David. You talked about all the notes and the character sheets and the physical aspects of doing it in person. It's immense versus being able to just move that over to a thumb drive and put it in a shelf somewhere and pull it out and whatever. The space, for instance, it's completely different. Okay, I can bring everything over in my pocket versus in the trunk of my car.
Oh, and it saves you, and with the insane price of everything, gas. You're saving gas.
Yeah, since COVID, I really think that the online play has taken off, even for people that are capable of meeting in person, just because it was, healthier for a while, to social distance. And that's, like I said, we one of the things that we found that we were doing is when we couldn't meet in person, we would just play online. And on the sessions that we were able to meet up together, in person, then we could go and do that. So I really enjoyed, that aspect that has come from everybody having access to online play. It definitely frees up a lot more time. You don't have the travel time involved with getting back and forth to someone's place, and so more of your time can be dedicated to playing the game itself, rather than how much of it do you have to use to get back and forth, and whether or not you have to provide those snacks or meals for people depending on what window of time we're playing.
That's a great couple of great points right there that you make. Something that David had touched on as well. Resources, fuel. You said food. Just like I was saying, you're entertaining people. Instead of you providing your bowl of popcorn, you're providing Doritos and dip and whatever for, probably 8 people. That includes you, of course. Versus showing up with your bag of chips and your bowl of popcorn and your soda of your choice, and that's all you need. And the whole travel time you said versus the travel time from what I was doing a minute ago to going to my study or studio or whatever it is to play D&D there. Those are great aspects of why virtual is that convenience factor, for sure.
Okay.
But at the same time, you do lose some of that human interaction.
And that's
like you were saying, because like you were saying before, you kind of lose that, being able to see that twitch of the hand when you get nervous, or when you're getting really invested, and you're watching a player's leg bounce, or them chewing on a pencil tip because oh my god, I don't want to fuck this roll up. It's that kind of thing, and and you do kind of lose that. But I will say one thing that virtual is it can definitely reduce table distractions. Because I've had tables, I've been at tables where years ago I was playing just as an example. Years ago when I was living in Florida, I was playing Adventurers League, and the character I was playing ended up getting, was interrogating a prisoner, and two of the people who were at the table were kind of whispering and co-conspiring at the end, not paying a damn bit of attention to what was going on. And I end up, my character ends up getting killed, and their first thought is, what kind of loot they got.
Okay, well, that is a perfect introduction, actually, to my second question, and that was going to be either your favorite or least favorite session that you've had to deal with, either in person or online. Because let me tell you, it is hard for me to pick just one favorite, but at the same time, I can easily find a couple of those least favorite sessions because of either being in person or online. So why don't we start with Patrick on this one?
I'm going to have to ask you to ask that question one more time so I can fully understand it. I didn't jot it down.
Yep, absolutely. I was asking, what is your favorite or least favorite encounter or incident that has happened with your group, being either in person or online? And what made it that because of being in person or online?
So, you're asking me, so basically my favorite or least favorite in both online and personal, is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
And or, yes.
And or, okay. So, being there personally, I remember I was running a game. Most of it was my roommates and my neighbor. And then this guy wants to play. I am always about, hey, if you want to play D&D, I want to at least give you the opportunity. Especially if you've never played before. Okay? Now, there comes a point in time where I'll be like, I'll create a new game and see if a couple other players want to play. But for the most part, I'm always going to try to acclimate someone to a current party that I'm running, given that it's not like over like 8 is my cap. I will not add another player after 8. That's from personal experience. That's a lot of action economy. Lot of action economy. Anyway, back to the story. Okay, guy ends up being there because it meant he was in the same room with a girl that he liked that was my roommate's girlfriend. And it was a very uncomfortable situation. It took precedence over everything that was there just because of a Jerry Springer moment, okay, that was brought to that game session. Worst experience playing D&D. Best experience playing D&D, okay, whether virtual or physical. And I have 2 there. But that was absolutely my worst experience playing D&D. I'll have to think about the worst virtual. But best experiences, it's a little harder. It's a little harder. David, why don't you go ahead and take it from here and I'll come back.
Right. So, worst tabletop session that I've had. I would say it was a Pathfinder game. I wasn't running. I was a player. And one of the other players was a power gamer. They were they were the person who, would do absolutely everything they could to stack their character to be absolutely optimized, to be amazing at everything.
Somehow I feel like you're describing me.
No, this wasn't you. Because I don't think you've ever played Pathfinder.
No, I always wanted
to. So anyway, he, we're in the middle of the session, and the player actually loses his temp. We're having a conversation in character, and he loses his temper based on our conversation. And he gets up, packs all of his stuff. He packs all his shit, storms out. Never saw the guy again. And then because of that, our DM was completely thrown off and derailed. And so that was the end of that campaign. The session ended after about an hour. And it's just it was just the fact that the guy took things way too personally. And, unfortunately, in a close environment, especially in a Florida summer, when it's hot and humid and gross outside and everybody is miserable, even with air conditioning and tempers, and somebody gets their temper raised, explosions happen. But with an RP with a tabletop situation, don't take it personally. That was kind of the worst experience for tabletop. The worst virtual session was I was in a World of Darkness play-by-post. It was all text-based RP, and I was in a session, and the storyteller just, something happened. My character gets teleported to another place in the scene, and they just forget about me for the rest of the whole thing. It's just like, hello, I'm still here. Oh, we'll get to you. And then I'm just sitting there, thumb up my ass for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But best situation. Let's see. Some of my, most of my experience, is as, I do have DM experience, yeah, but I do also play a lot. And I will say it was a game that a friend of ours was running, and I was playing a Stater, and I threw a halfling and enlarged him while he was in the air. That was one of my favorite situations in a virtual tabletop game, because just everyone was like, "Oh my god, you did that!" Either that or allowing a paladin to surf a demon. Those were both some of my favorite virtual tabletop situations.
So I've
Okay.
given a little
Well,
bit of
thanks
thought.
for sharing that, Patrick. Did you have your answer figured out now, or?
Yeah, I think so. I'll finish up with the worst. The worst. So that was my worst in-person interaction. My worst online interaction actually is something that I may have inadvertently caused simply because I don't know. I'm always concerned with keeping the game moving. Okay? So, when I ask someone, hey, would you go ahead and it's your turn, what would you like to do? I want to attack this dude. Okay, go ahead and make your attack. This was on MRPG, mind you. And so he copy and pasted his entire attack. And did it all. And included his tail attack and whatever with his raptor and himself and everything. And I was like, I'm sorry, but this hits, but I'm sorry, this misses, and that misses. I'm sorry. Well, that missed, so that means that I can do this. I'm sorry, but you already did do that because you basically listed it all out that right there by me allowing you to go ahead and do an additional thing because of your miss. Whatever. And so I was like, let's just go ahead and move on to the next player, and then we'll come back to that. He decided that I was not playing fair because I didn't allow him to do that additional thing, even though he attacked like 7 times in like one action. And I was cool. It's just that although he missed a couple of those, he did not think I was playing fair by allowing him to do an 8th action in that turn. And so he decided not to play. I was playing with a limited number of players already. It was 3. That meant I only had 2 players. By the time I got extra players around, they had lost interest. And then I heard back every once in a while by one virtual player. But I always felt bad that we weren't able to finish that game because of just that whatever. So I love the idea that everyone, getting your plan for what you're going to do in mind beforehand. But when you declare your whole thing and don't allow room for whatever, and certain things don't go your way, you did declare that that's what you did. Okay, so to undeclare that, it's just, you can't, it's just, just ask you to make an attack. Don't make 12. Just don't get mad when I say it doesn't work out. I'm sorry. I don't know. That's just my standpoint on it. But I may very well be his, and I'm focused on the wrong guy right now. I may very well be his nemesis as well. Because after all, we never had the opportunity to work out that grievance. Whereas in a person, it's harder to just hang up the phone. When you're sitting around the table and be like, you have your argument, your discussion, and it goes awry. Well, you still have an opportunity before the guy gets his stuff all packed up in his bag and actually leaves to be like, hey, I'm sorry. Is there a way that we can work this out? I'd like to continue playing, and I don't want you to not play, and I want us to all have that opportunity together. But at the moment it was no, it was, I'm not playing this anymore. What? Okay. Well, that happened. And then the entire game was kaput, And it just, it irks me to this day. That thing that never got done. So, but as far as favorite. I'm sorry, David. You had something to comment there. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you were actually making me think about the online as a DM. A bad situation I had was the the Waterdeep game that we had that I was running when
Okay.
When a particular player slaughtered a bunch of kobolds who weren't fighting back, and we got into that argument that his
Tell me
character
about that.
was evil.
Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah.
You were there.
I don't remember Cobalt Slaughter.
In the room with the dwarf and the kobold servants, he wanted to press gang the kobolds into working at the bar. They said no, so he killed them. You remember now?
I tried to forget. Yes, I do remember that. Yes. Yes, that was a bad situation.
Yes, it was.
Um,
And then he was arguing with me that he's not evil because they're monsters, and that doesn't work that way anymore.
oh, man. And that's just something that touches just onto the topic I brought up about having the opportunity to work through those differences, because the person that you speak of was a co-host last week.
Yeah, I didn't want to give any names, but
it is the elephant in the room now. And so
Yeah,
there is that
I mean-
opportunity to work through that. And I'm all about that.
yeah, I mean, we're cool. I mean, we're still cool,
course.
but that was just a bad.
Of course. And I'm
just a bad
a big
situation.
thing. I'm a big thing about. Here's a great thing about whether it's virtual or physical. I hate to call it real life because it's all real life, but physical versus virtual. What do they say about a relationship with, like, your spouse? Don't go to bed angry. Don't go to bed angry. That's what's going to make it work out. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that your party is comparable to your life partner, but when you enter into this agreement to take part in this campaign, it may take a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of years. You're entering into that agreement, that arrangement. And if you can't squash your beef between each other, it makes that experience less entertaining, because that is always looming in the background, even when you move on to the next game.
Oh yeah, digital or physical, you have to have a good rapport with your players.
Absolutely. And so I'd like to see that be resolved, so that will no longer be your worst experience ever. Man. Or at least online with one of them. But yeah, I think that's something. But anyway, best experience. Best experience. That is a hard question, because I've had a lot of great experiences. But I had this opportunity, and I'm sorry he's not here right now, Chris, because this was his game that he ran. I was playing as one of my favorite characters. I mentioned him last week, Oren. We had finished up with our campaign, which was the campaign I created the character for, and it was like, well, what do you want to do now? Okay, well, just so happened there was this chick that I had, had the hots for, this priestess with, really great charisma that I had saved. I hate the way I just said that. I saved this drow princess, this drow priestess, okay? But then they were once again swept up with this evil that I was trying to thwart. Well, I was successful in my mission, but knew that this princess, who I kind of love at first sight kind of deal, knew that she had been swept away with the enemy at the end of this game. at the end of this campaign, and it was something that kind of like, oh man, I think my character would have tried to go back after her, after rescuing the prince from the clutches of this evildoer, and I'm not going to get into the description exactly what all was going on, but so I put together a team, and I went down, and I got that girl out. Okay, and I got her out in dramatic fashion. But the great experience was this: I obtained somewhere along the road an item. It was an item of spell storing, a ring of spell storing. You guys are familiar. I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you're not aware of what this ring does. It stores up a spell from the spellcaster that put it into for allowed you to use when you deem fit. Sometimes this spell is something that you may never be capable of casting, in which case, that's what the story is talking about. I was a trickster. I was a rogue. I dabbled in wizardry, but I was nowhere near the capability of casting 9th level spells or 7th level spells. But that's what freaking happened, bro. I went down there and things went awry. Some big old purple worm come up out of the ground. You know what I did? I cast a spell my character never would have been able to cast with this item that I'd held on this entire time, thinking I need the right moment to use this spell. It was maze. I stuck this purple worm in a maze with very little intelligence. So we were other side of the prairie by the time it came back, you know, and then got into this abode and ended up using another charge from this ring through various things, this, that, and the other. I think maybe animate dead happened. I was seriously clearing out a ring of spell storing that I had in my pocket for years. For years. Okay? And just kind of laid them all out there. And in the process, knew what it was to look and feel and be a black dragon. That was the final thing. And this I turned into a black dragon. It was my final jest to thwart the enemy that chased after us. They were not coming after a black dragon. I couldn't breathe acid. Hell, I don't even think I could fly. But I could look like a black dragon, bro, because I had polymorph son, another spell I could not cast. But for that moment, I could do that. And in being allowed to just be able to do all that, it took several months to do whatever, but the climax of it, being able to use that item to do all those things, to actually put together this little A-team and go down and rescue this chick and basically give a climactic finish to a character that has such an epic journey in his own and give it such an epic ending. You know, with this item I picked up in some random dungeon a long time ago that just happened to be the key to everything. And that was cool. It was kind of like, you know, a movie. You know, that thing you get at the beginning of the journey. It ends up being the thing you needed at the end. You know? It was cool. You know? And thanks to Chris for giving me that experience. That was online. That was an online experience. My favorite in person was the day I saved my entire party. This holds apex over any other experience I've ever had. I don't recall the DM. We had a lot of different guys that playing at that time, and we were in a dungeon and we came across this item. It was a chest, and it had a mirror of life trapping under the lid. Everyone ended up, well, a few of us ended up getting trapped in there. And one of the party members smashed the mirror. I don't know if you guys know what a mirror of life trapping is, but it has like 11 chambers. Something goes in, it's basically in stasis. You can hear things, you can see things, whatever, but time doesn't pass for you. You never have to worry about eating or drinking or sleeping or anything like that. You're just there. You're there until the command word is used to release you, or someone breaks the glass. Well, there's 11 chambers.
Or takes your spot.
What's that?
Or takes your spot.
Or takes your spot. So someone breaks the mirror, releases everything. Releases the party members, but also releases a pit fiend. And we are nowhere near pit fiend level. And it kills everyone almost immediately. No, is that what happened? Is that what happened? Or David, you were there. Did it take someone's spot and come out? Or did someone smash it and it came out? Either way, I do remember that I was face to face with this pit fiend. And there was no way that I could possibly kill it. But I was just raging barbarian. And that's what barbarians do, is they rage and they hit stuff. And I attacked. I rolled a nat 20. Well,
it was. Yeah, no, it took Jar's. Jar took his spot.
Okay.
I ended up getting into the mirror.
And the pit fiend came out.
Because you lost your paladin.
Yeah, and I ended up being like one of the only members that were left. All right, so.
I always seem to get stuck in those mirrors, man.
It was a great trick that was taught by a particular rest in peace.
Vince.
Yeah, he got hit by a bus.
Long time ago.
Yeah, but he played D&D, and he was an old school Gorgonard like most of us. Yeah, he shared some things and shared that trap that happened to be the trap that was doing all this. Well, I rolled that natural 20, and we were playing a game in which they won confirmation. And so I rolled it again, and it was another natural 20. Well, I don't know if you know what that meant, but that meant instant death.
It was a house rule that we were running at the time.
Mm-hmm. So we confirmed, and I rolled another natural 20. I rolled 2 natural 20s in a row to confirm a natural 20, and ended up lopping the head of this pit fiend off. A foe I had no business fighting. Okay? This was from Impulse. Impulse always had the way to almost kill all of us, or kill all of us. Because
man.
They were so uneven, those matches. There was like no way we could do that. But somehow we did. And yeah, I saved the party by killing this pit fiend that I had no business fighting. Yeah, that happened. It was cool. It's a moment.
Yeah, and then there was
forever.
I still tell stories of your Tarask defeat.
That was cool. And
that was very much a rule of cool,
That was, but the rolling 2 nat 20s, that's something that doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Whereas
And for it to happen at that particular moment,
that was
just made it a special thing.
That was just me
thinking way outside the box.
Using the descriptions of the spells as they lay.
So what we're discussing with the Tarask incident, this was, 22 years ago, when Patrick and I were living in Las Vegas together. Our DM, we were like level 11 or 12, and the DM kept throwing things at us that were way above our weight class that we kept taking out. And he got tired of us not having a challenge, so he throws the Tarask at us.
As
now,
if
mind
it
you,
wasn't a challenge. As if everything he threw at us wasn't a challenge. Oh, it was a challenge. We just happened to survive, and that just didn't sit right with him.
Right. It was, we would, minimal casualties, coming out with a couple of scratches, and it's just, and he would throw things at us way above our weight class, and then he decides, screw it, Tarask. And so Patrick, one of the characters that he's playing, is the sorcerer who had happened upon a Ring of Wishes.
No, I didn't have the Ring of Wishes. Someone else had the Ring of Wishes, and they'd already.
Oh, and they gave it to you.
Yes, Jerome had already cast one wish, and he turned the Tarrasque
That's
into a
right.
grape.
Yeah.
And then the grape got squished, and it turned back into. Or something happened with the Tarrasque where it ended up.
Yeah.
turning.
Yeah. The grape got squished. Yeah, the grape got squished, and it came back.
Yeah.
So he gave the ring to you.
I said, "Can I see that for a second?" It had 2 wishes left when I had it.
Mhm.
It was a ring with 3. I had 2 when I got it, and I said, "I wish that the Tarrasque was deathly allergic to me." And the DM was like, "Okay, it's deathly allergic to you." So then I walked out in front of the Tarrasque and I said, "Eat me." It sniffed me, realized it was something it didn't want to eat, and was like,
The only
no.
thing it didn't want to eat.
But it didn't want to touch me either, because the DM was like, "I don't know, I don't know if I touch you, I'm deathly allergic to you. I'm not coming in contact with you whatsoever." So it didn't like slap me away or like that. It just stopped. So I was like, "Fine, okay. Well, I teleport without error into the stomach of the Tarrasque. Eat me." You have no choice now. Sure, the caprice, or what is it called? I struggle with that. It's shell. It has the actual name.
Carapace.
Carapace. Capri Sun. The Capri Sun. The carapace.
It's shell.
Yeah, it reflects like things that you shoot at it, but it doesn't negate all kinds of spells, including like a conjuration spell. Why would it? So it doesn't say anything about that type of spell being affected by its Capri Sun.
Just say shell.
But so it worked. Tarrasque dies. I was like, cool. And as I pick up my character sheet to do the proverbial, well, not proverbial, it was the ritualistic, that character's dead now, my DM stopped me and was like, "No, the gods see that your sacrifice was worthy." And so my character became a demigod. And that was the whole problem these guys have been dealing with for the last 15 years, is Necron being a demigod. A guy, by the way, Necron was one of those guys that just like, "What am I going to do today? Flip a coin. Let's see. Looks like I'm wearing purple." So
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
so he didn't care. He was like, "Fuck it." All right. So there was a little more context there. This also ended a life debt for him. Yes, what a crazy person in order to do a life debt with a paladin that, when you describe him, sounds like Kal-El. His name was Cal, mind you, but they said that my DM, when I created him, and everything was randomly created, mind you. We used all the vital statistics all done with random generation, and all the stats were all done by dice, and Cal was just deemed to look like that guy right over there, Conan. He pretty much was fucking Conan. So he was just given like a +2 in this intimidation, just because of him being such a big physical brute. But yeah, he was Cal. He didn't need saving. He was just fine. So a life debt never being paid, but being paid to his son. And I've gone on with this for long enough. If you want to know what really happened, I have a recording of that somewhere, I think. Maybe. I don't know. No. I have a recording of some of that at the end of that campaign where you guys tied it up and killed. No, I don't think I recorded that. I lied.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, so I guess I will go ahead and finish off this question and then round it up and explain why I had that as my second question. So for me, my favorite moment in person would have been the first time I was DMing, and I was only doing so because my cousin's fiance really enjoyed D&D, and he'd never played. And I told him, it's like, well, do you have enough friends that you could put together that would be interested in playing? And so we put a little bit of effort into it, and his brother and then his best friend both joined the campaign, and so that made the three of them, plus his fiance. And it's like, you know what, we have room for a little bit more. So I went ahead and invited my DM from another campaign and one of his other friends into the campaign. So we had a full party there. And here's the thing: half the group had never played before, and the other half of the group were seasoned players. And we were playing, and my cousin stood up in the middle of the session and shouts out, "I was born to be a nerd." And it was just such a funny moment because, he was only there, to have time, with somebody else that for something he didn't really think he was interested in, but he just wanted to, to see why she was so interested in it. And for him to jump up, in the middle of the session and shout, "I was born to be a nerd," that was probably one of the coolest things I will have ever witnessed in my life, inside or outside of D&D. For the coolest thing for a virtual game, I would have to say it would have to be when I actually ran a game based on the Elder Scrolls universe. And we had one of our players in that group wasn't sure if he was interested in being a full-time player. And I made an NPC for the party to fill in a role that they didn't have, and I let her play that character. And then the party betrayed that character, and I had to make another character for her to play because they switched sides. But she was then allowed to play both the new character and the old one in a vengeance sequence. And that scenario never would have happened, had we been playing in person. It was only because with playing online, we were able to make room for her whenever she was able to play, and the rest of the time not. And so it was just, I don't know, one of those audacity moments, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Worst sessions in person. I was actually playing with a friend of mine from church, and he made an exclamation that went against our beliefs. And I like, wait, what did you just say? And he realized what came out of his mouth, even though he was only playing from a character's point of view. He said something that he didn't believe in to such a degree, he started crying. I don't think we ever played again. We gave him a few minutes to try and pull himself together. We were meeting at a local library, and after a bit, he's like, "You know what? I'm not going to be able to keep going." And I walked him down and I let him know, it's like, look, I understand that it just came out. I'm not all that mad at you. I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that you actually just said that, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that ruined the entire campaign. As far as worst for online,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Robert, may I ask? what was it he said?
It was just the Lord's name in vain. It was.
Oh.
He opened something really nasty came out, and he exclaimed, it's something happening. And it really was his character, but yet I was like, wait, what did you just say? Because I never expected to hear that come from that player. It wasn't even,
Right.
so it was one of those situations where he was so in his character's head, that he didn't even realize he'd said it until I drew attention to it. And so I feel horrible because I completely ruined his experience, over pointing out something his character did that was outside of what his person would have done.
But I don't think you should beat yourself up about that.
Well, that was still the worst in-person session I think I've ever had, because I made someone cry. We were in a public place, and it does not feel good to invoke those kind of emotions for somebody.
Yeah.
The worst for me for online play actually was we were playing through Roll20. It was a random group. I didn't know any of these people in any capacity. You just go on their forums, and the DM will put a schedule down, and you select to join if you can meet that schedule. And we played a couple of sessions. To be honest, he wasn't that great of a DM, but all of a sudden he never showed up. He scheduled it. All of the players were there. We were all waiting. We waited like half an hour, and he just never showed up. And so for me, the worst online is simply the fact that there is no real commitment to it, because he didn't really know us. It wasn't a big deal for him just to blow us off and just never show up in the first place. And so the reason I asked for the best and worst experiences when it comes to online or in person was trying to point out that most of them could have happened in either direction. And that, there are a lot of pros to either method. If you have a group of friends that you're capable of playing with, in person or online, it gives a lot of tools at your disposal to make use of that online. And so that was kind of where I was trying to point out with this. Just as advice for anyone that's potentially looking at running a group or being part of a group, and might have some conflicts with scheduling. They might have an issue with the finances. It might be, I was just trying to point out that overall it's pretty much the same experience. That most of our best moments could have happened in either situation, and the same goes for most of our negative experiences. And that kind of leads me then into my last question, and that would be, do either of you have any advice for someone who is wanting to get into either playing or DMing on how they could find that group? So that they could, experience some of these positives, but then also be aware that some of these other things happen, and maybe avoid that negative experience because of having listened to our, experiences already.
David, would you like to field this?
Absolutely. One of the recommendations that I will give to find a group is one of the things is, if you have a local game store, hang out there, talk to people, look for there's this great resource that Wizards of the Coast has called Adventurers League, where it's actual where you're playing an actual, campaign and adventures on a weekly basis, and it's a great way to meet people, and you don't have to show up every single week, but it's basically league play, and it's a great way to, like I said, meet people, network, get an idea of who you mesh with, who you don't, which is a great way for in person to get a group together. Online, one of the resources is if you go to Roll20. They have game listings where you can sign up for games. What is the name of that other system? That other virtual tabletop?
There is dang. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I was just thinking about the other day. The something. Either way, there are a number of different online resources, but also one way that you can do especially if you're looking to get into like a game online. Okay, I myself am a member of many different Facebook groups. So I'm going to plug Facebook right here as a great media platform for meeting players that have your same interest. Okay, they're going to be playing the same things that you want to play. Great way for you to find friends that are playing online that may end up having games that you may have lasting relationships with, enduring through many years, rather than just playing a random game. Okay, a lot of these groups, they have different message groups talking about games that they want to play, games that they are interested in playing for players that, if in case you're a DM looking for players, you can find these in many different DM groups, whether you be playing a second edition game or a fifth edition game, or even making a something outside of that, like a White Wolf, or something that you might not find an online resource for. There are still groups out there dedicated to media and socializing with different players and DMs that like to play very obscure games. So look to doing that, to finding the game that fits you best, as well as making enduring relationships with players that you may end up playing with for years to come. Something I wanted to talk about something you had mentioned about new players as well, but the topic you had mentioned about this DM that you had, where you had said he wasn't a very good DM, and he didn't end up coming and opening up a session and actually running that game, and it was a very damning experience for you, as far as someone deciding to be a DM. Now, let's start with a little story. So this is a figurative story. A bunch of dudes get together. It's like 4 or 5 dudes end up getting together and like, dude, I'd love to play this game called D&D. I never played before, whatever. Okay, so everyone makes these epic characters, whatever, created from their favorite media sources, whether it be movies or comic books or whatever, and they use epic characters. But the one element they don't have is a DM. For a player to play, you need a DM. And sometimes you end up just deciding, hey, you know what? I'd like to be that guy for our players. There is no such thing as a bad DM that keeps trying to get better. Okay? So as long as you're attempting to get better, okay, learning from your mistakes, listening to your players, being a part of it. Now, that's really what makes a good DM in my eyes, okay? No one's going to just show up and be like, okay, I've read the book once, and let's make some characters and let's play, okay? There's going to be a lot of things that you haven't really, experienced yet. And something that we've talked about in our, little pre-session warm-ups before we actually play games, our little things that made us decide to do this podcast, is there's a big difference between player experience and character experience. Your character levels up every time you gain X amount of experience points or achieve a checkpoint. You gain your proficiencies, you gain new abilities, gain new feats, level up your ability scores. You know what? Yours as a player that stay the same. You don't adjust your constitution or your intelligence or your wisdom. You gain experience just by running that character, just by being exposed to what happened when I did this, okay? Or when I did that. And that's a whole new facet to it as well. So when you're starting a new game, or being a new player, or being a new DM, don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. Be willing to learn from that experience. Don't try to block it out. What made this bad situation, like we talked about throughout this session, come into being? How can I avoid that? Or if it comes to that, how can I troubleshoot it? How can I salvage this session, this game, this relationship? And that's really what I'd like to contribute to this discussion. Salvaging that relationship, most importantly. We're all in this together. Period.
Okay, well, for me, I would suggest places like the local library wasn't brought up. We've all played in a library for some of our sessions, and that has been mentioned. But you can actually leave flyers at the library, or you can ask them to let people know if they ask about it, that a group is formally going. If you're still in school or something like that, you can easily put flyers up, in the hallways there. I know I formed a chess club when I was in high school, and that's how I got the group started in the first place, was just setting up a couple of flyers. I think you're totally right. As long as you have an interest in it and you're trying to improve. The only problem that my DM really had is that he gave up. That either he didn't feel like he was being very successful, or we weren't interested, or whatever. But the real issue was the fact that he gave up on us, and that was what made that such a negative experience. It wasn't even that we weren't enjoying the story or anything like that, or how difficult he'd made it on us. It was simply the fact, that he quit on us. So for online, another avenue that you didn't mention would be Discord. There are a lot of groups out there that, official and otherwise, that would not be hard to find and to build a group with. Even when we're using Roll20, most people end up using Discord for their voice and video features. So yeah, don't be afraid to make use of Discord forums and things of that nature to try and locate groups that way.
I was saying that that's actually what we're using right now is Discord. In fact, we use that to play most of, if not all, of our games.
But to go off of your library, well played in the library. Yeah, I've played in a Denny's at 2:00 in the morning with a group of people, while we're just slurping down coffee. So, but the other thing is, if you're looking to be involved, if you're looking to get into it, don't be afraid to be a nerd. If you have a player's handbook, and if you're at work and, you're just sitting there thumbing through the player's handbook, you never know. You might stumble across another nerd who plays.
Actually, it's a popular enough game. You are certainly going to run across somebody else who plays. It's just, it might surprise you who that turns out to be.
People who play, people who actually play, and the groups to look into, people who've been in the military. They play a lot. Patrick, as an example, because when you're on and I've talked to other people, other vets who play. It's when you're on a deployment and you got nothing else to do. Yeah, you're gonna find ways to entertain yourself, especially when you're stuck in a barracks for 2 weeks or on an aircraft carrier. Other people, believe it or not, people who've been in prison you will find some of the biggest nerds coming out of prison because they got nothing better to do than work out, read, and find ways to beat the boredom. And one of them is D&D.
And I think that kind of brings us to next week a little bit, David.
Yes, because next week I would like to talk about D&D and role-playing as therapy.
And that's a discussion I definitely want to be a part of.
Absolutely. And I think that means a little bit different for every one of us. So for right now, I want to thank you all for joining us at the table in the tavern, and would like to see you next time.
All right, who's got the check this week?
I thought you were getting that.
Okay, fine, I'll get it this week. Well, no, I'm getting it next week.
Oh, that's right. You are getting next week. Robert, it's your week.
Oh, darn it. That means it's mine. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
All right.
All right.